Will Smith is back
Okay.
with a new movie, and he's addressing fans that are hesitant to see his new movie after what happened with the Oscars. And he was just on who I forgot the comedian's name. Noah, I forgot his name.
I'm not sure.
He was on with him, and he basically said that like he had like built up anger, and that we should all be nice to each other and different things like that. But he said he completely
I go to the
understands.
gym. I go to the gym when I have built up anger. I don't go and slap someone on national television.
Yeah,
Just saying.
he said he completely understands, that people are hesitant to see his movies and different things like that, and to support him. He would respect the decision if whatever they chose. His new movie comes out on December 9th. It's called Emancipation. I believe it's on
Apple TV. Apple
TV.
TV.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And his deepest concern is that what will happen with the turnout with his team.
He should have thought about that before he slapped someone on national TV.
Yeah.
You're not responsible for just your own actions when you're at Will Smith's level.
Yeah.
I don't care either way. I probably won't see it, but
Trevor Noah. That's it. Sorry. Trevor Noah.
But I will tell you one thing. I hadn't seen the trailer, and I was actually live doing a watch along yesterday, and my original reaction was like, "Oh, Will Smith!" Like when I saw him. Because like your brain goes right into what we know him for at this point, and the biggest headline. I wish we were doing this show when that happened. We would have had a blast talking about that slap. But yeah, like I gotta tell you, I saw the trailer last night live, and my original was like, yeah, no thanks. Would I watch it? I don't know. I do. I am a big fan of movies that come out to streaming services directly because I'm too lazy to go to the movies and I have too much going on. But I'm not sure that it's gonna be like something that I go out of my way to watch right away. Roman wants to say hello.
Roman had a big weekend as well.
Yeah, so it's not gonna affect me because then that means I will have to stop watching all Will Smith movies, and Will Smith has some classics that I go back and watch all the time. We just sometimes have to accept that these celebrities age, and they're there's so many people out there that you find something out about them and you're like, oh no, you're that kind of person, but you don't stop necessarily watching the product that they put out there. I think that if this was originally meant for the theaters, I can see it being pulled back to a streaming service because it would have not done well.
I go back and forth because Will Smith is one, like in my top 5 like favorite actors of all time, but also like
he's not in my top 5, so maybe that's why we're so different about it.
like one of my favorite, I think, celebrities, because like a lot of his content like over the last couple of years has been more like motivational type content, like inspirational type stuff. I don't know. I've always been a fan of his movies, his shows, and like recently, I think one of my favorite movies is Pursuit of Happiness, with that he did with his kid Jaden.
Oh, that movie's amazing.
Seeing it sucks because like not to compare the two at all, because two completely different things. But if you look at like a Bill Cosby, for example, where he was beloved just the same as Will Smith, and later in his life, after obviously committing these acts that he did, but later in his life when everything came out, like that's when he got canceled. And I feel like the same thing is kind of happening to Will Smith, where later in his life, I think he's like in his 50s or 60s now, where a lot of the peak of his career, where now he's being canceled. And I don't know.
Now that you said that, I gotta tell you something. When you compare it to things like 54, by the way, I just googled it. When you compare it to something like a Bill Cosby, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock just seems so stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like yeah, it was built up anger because this is not a crime. This is an embarrassing moment for him and the Academy. Actually, it was probably the most seasoning we ever seen on an Academy Award show. Let's just keep it real. But it's true, but at the same time, yeah, there's people fighting for the Academy Awards to be more including of everybody, and those kind of moments are going to probably turn them off from wanting to do that.
Yeah.
But when you put it in that perspective, I do feel that what Will Smith done is not that big of a deal, and it is up to Chris Rock whether he wants to accept the apology or not. Like it's not
Yeah.
for up to the world to decide his fate moving forward because we all get into fights. It's just
Yeah.
not
That's the
publicly,
thing.
but we all get into fights, and it's just like, hey, if you and I have an argument offline about how we're gonna do the show, and then we squash it out, nobody finds out, we move on, nobody knows. He was
Yeah.
just in the position where everybody knew about it, you know?
If it was anybody else, it wouldn't have mattered. Um, Actually, if you were to ask me, if it was anybody else, I think that they would be applauded for someone standing up for their wife, which in a
Right.
lot of cases, that's when that happens. If you see it on TV shows and movies,
I also feel bad because I feel like the controversy between him and Jade and things that we Jada and things that we heard before of her and the entanglement and all that
yeah,
didn't help him because he's like, oh, he's standing, he was in a lose-lose situation here,
and that was
honestly.
all out around like a little before that. Like it wasn't
You
that long
know?
where the red table talks that she hosts, like all that stuff was coming out. So they were already like everything was coming back to light in a sense. And I don't know if you knew this, but apparently this is not the first time that Chris Rock like took jabs at Jada. This has been like an
Yeah,
ongoing thing
I
that he's
did see
done.
something about that.
So like that's the thing. Like, is it wrong? Yes or no? Like, I don't think that's a correct. Like, it's not this or that. There's so many other details that surround it where it's kind of hard to be like, I don't know. I don't
This
know.
is
Like,
why I'm glad that shock factor, we were just talking about it, that
yeah,
shock value comedy is gone, and now you don't see as many of these moments as you used to, because I
yeah,
remember, hosts of award shows just going out there and saying the craziest, most ridiculous thing about people, and we all just laughed it up back in the day. I don't know what. I was watching some VMAs, I can't recall them, but just to that point, it was like I remember hearing the host say some things that I was like, if this happened today, he would have never gotten away with that monologue.
yeah.
And,
And
I, and I- and I'm glad that we're moving forward. Like we're not as offensive as we used to be in the content. But at the same time, I do think that it's also making this generation so soft that somebody slapping someone is like the end of their career. No, it's
yeah,
not. Like back in the day, that's how we used to handle business.
that's
You
the
know?
thing. That's the thing. And like I didn't want to like bring that to that point, but that's the thing. Like I remember
People are
like
soft.
when
Say it.
when someone like in school and there was a bully or something, the answer was until they hit you, that's when you fight back.
Right.
Like it's not like, oh, like just don't say anything. Like it was always you better pick your fists up. And obviously today the times are different, and obviously any kind of type of fighting is wrong unless it's in a
Right.
WWE ring or in a
No, that's
UFC.
our favorite kind.
Yeah.
No,
But I
but
mean,
yeah, it's.
listen, I can't tell you what I would do if I was in that position and someone was like essentially like attacking my wife on a major platform who was already going through things. Like, I don't know how I don't think I would go up and slap him,
That's
but
what I'm saying. I feel like I don't know what his judgment at the time was, because I feel like if I there's two versions of me, and if I'm live like we are right now, of course I'm gonna do my best to keep it together, even if something gets said that I don't like, and tell you later like, hey Joey, let's not do that again.
yeah,
If we're in a situation where you're not live in front of millions of people and it's just Chris Rock and you backstage, why couldn't you wait until the segment ended and go backstage and slap him then? It would have gotten out, of course.
yeah,
News would have reported, but it would have not been on the broadcast. So he could have just done it and handled it in a different way, But at the same time, I do think that there is, while we're getting in a way where things are not as offensive as they used to be, we're also making for a very very soft generation that gets offended at a lot of things. That I was like, when
yeah,
I grew up, I had to deal with being called this, and this, and nobody was coming to my defense, and it made me tough.
yeah. And I see Dylan just wrote in the chat, if Will Smith laughed along with the joke, he would have been branded as being insensitive to his wife. So he was in like a
Yeah, in a lose lose
lose situation.
situation. That's what I
Yeah,
said. I just wish he would have just waited until the segment and then gone backstage and punched him.
yeah,
You could have done. You could
yeah.
have gotten the exact same message out without it being live on air.
Yeah. No, I listen. I think the whole thing is, and a lot of people were saying that it was scripted, and it went off a whole in 100 different directions that it should have been, but ultimately, obviously, it shouldn't have happened. But
Yep.
um, yeah, like back to kind of what we were saying with his movie, like you know, that today it affects, you know, his career.
Mhm.
And he's not going to say any, like him coming out and saying, you know, I respect your decision to not want to see it. Like, what else is he going to say? Like,
Yeah.
if he defends himself, it just shows that what he did was acceptable to him, you know? So,
I just don't think that compared to other people in other news, what Will Smith did is cancelable to the point that I'm never going to support everything that he does again. No, it's not. It's not that deep. I didn't think the movie looked like something I will go and watch the day that it came out
yeah.
based on that trailer. But it's not a movie that I will tell you if it's on, I'm not going to watch. And there's a lot of Will Smith movies that if they're on, I'm going to watch, especially Independence Day.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah. That movie, you know, like those movies, like we should come up with a list of the movies that you don't flip from.
Yeah.
Independence Day is one of them for me. If it's on, whether it's for background noise or whatever, it's staying on my TV.
That is such that's one. I think that's one of his best ones.
Yeah, that movie was such a classic when it came out. Like it was so good.
If you want to see all our videos about real news stories that are funny, stupid, or weird, click the subscribe button below. Otherwise, we'll start posting spoilers about your favorite new movies.